Welcome to the podcast with your favorite cash flow guys, Mike and Blaine. Giving you the best advice while having a beer. When you're running a business, there are problems every day. Let Mike and Blaine help you out and guide your way. Cheers to the good times with Mike and Blaine for business, beer, and BS.
Oh my God, it's 177. This is 177. You're listening to Mike and Blaine. I am Mike Mylan, also known as Cash Flow Mike. That is my friend and my partner and co-host, entrepreneur, Blaine Birch, CEO of Drive Run. What's up, man?
Whew. It's been a sprint this week. It's just been I'm coming in. I'm almost out of breath because it's just been a busy week. But that's what happens. The new year hits, and I was telling one of our partners today I was talking to, and I said, we'll be sprinting till August, or at least the end of July. This is what it is, busy. So.
Hey, what is it about the turn of the calendar that people go, we need to go? Maybe is it because we don't do shit all through December? We're just like, we're going to take December off.
Oh yeah. It's like everybody shuts down December 15th. Nobody wants to talk with us till January 15th. And then everyone's, and then also this time of year, like we work with, a lot of CFOs mostly, but there's that year end stuff. There's January is always busy for CPAs. There's always some overlap. And so it feels like it's just been really busy for everybody through January. I'm hoping February is that little lull before they get to tax time and everyone has to start thinking about that.
Yeah. So if you're new and you're like, what are these guys even talking about? This is Mike and Blaine. We talk about business, beer, and BS. Well, we don't know what order either. It just kind of pops out, whatever comes to mind. This is the show that we don't plan for. This is something that just kind of happens. Whatever is top of the mind, whatever is going on in our life, we come in literally this time 2 minutes prior to 4 o'clock on a Thursday. Here's the topic, and we run. So this week, we're going to talk about forecasting, and I thought you would be just like, wheelhouse. That's my thing.
It is. I that's what I talk about every day, all week. So I will try not to make it sound like just this pitch. So we will talk about the nuts and bolts. I'm just pasting in our sponsor stuff here. I got to paste in. I realized I didn't paste it in here. So there we go. Now I can.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and here's how it comes up. It's really weird that this just happens, meaning that what is the conversation that's going on in my circle, and everybody's going to forecasting right now. And I'm like going, in my world, that should have happened in October, right? In October, we forecast, we start getting our plans in place. That way in January, we hit the ground running. That's not how it happens in reality. I got people right now that are just now forecasting, and it's February.
Yeah. Well, and like what we do and what we recommend to people too is like, this is not a once a year thing anyway. Like this is a way of life. It's dynamic. Keep it going every week, every month. Adjust because things are going to force you to adjust. Right. So whatever you thought was going to happen January 1st, not going to happen.
All right. So speaking of forecasting, I could have never have forecasted that we would already have sponsors all the way to December 31st, 2024. We already have
25.
revenue. Yeah. 25. Sorry. 25. Yeah.
25,
we already have revenue in for all of the year.
For the entire year. Yeah. We've got sponsors that are like literally through the end of the year. So that's super exciting. And for those of you that haven't listened before, we have a couple different types of sponsors, but the ones we're going to talk about right away are our beer sponsors, which we started. Basically, it just started as Mike one day put a link on mikeandblaine.com, buy us a beer and we'll mention you. And now we have sponsors throughout to the end of the year that want us to talk a little bit about them and they buy us beer. So it's the best value in sponsorship on the planet. You guys should all be sponsoring us.
Hey, for $5, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, you get a live commercial that's evergreen. You get the recordings, all that type of stuff for $5 a week, right?
Yep.
Here's what also happens. I've even taken trade. We've had breweries around Texas just give me a case of beer saying, hey, here's a case of beer. And they gave me a couple of beers per week, and it'd be like 6 weeks worth of beer. Right? Yeah. I would just talk about a different brand that they had or a different flavor of beer that they had. So it doesn't have to be cash. You can send it to Blaine. You can send it to me. Like one of our sponsors, Neighbor Pat.
Walks beer down to you. I always got to thank you, neighbor Pat, for bringing Mike beer. Someday I'll get to try it.
Today's beer is actually from Owl. I think what is it, Owl Brewing? I always get that one wrong for some reason. Yeah, Blue Owl Brewing. It's called Bob's Fine Beer, but it's a porter. There it is. And it's just cool looking. This has nothing to do with forecasting. Has nothing to do with forecasting, but it's a great thing. He brought it down the other night because it had been so long with the cold weather since he got beaten cornhole. He goes, I think I could take another ass whipping in cornhole. So he came down here, took a beating, went on home, gave me the beer. It was a great night.
Beautiful. I'm just walking right past that. Sorry, Pat.
Oh, you know what I was supposed to do? I forgot. Oh, Pat, apologies. I know you're listening. I was supposed to come down yesterday and check out his new pool, and I forgot. I got on a phone call, got him busy. You know how it is. You get busy, like, oh, I got to do this next. Totally blew my mind. Totally slipped my mind. Sorry, Pat.
I'm sure the pool will be there tomorrow, but you're gonna have to make it down and tell us all about Pat's new pool.
Yeah, there you go.
Exciting.
Who else we got? What's another sponsor?
Well, we've got Rachel Barnett from Gentle Frog. So if you want to learn about QuickBooks, if you own a business, you need to know everything you need to know about QuickBooks. You can do so much of it yourself. It's so easy to do, but there is a bit of a learning curve. So if you go to gentlefrog.com, or even better, go to YouTube at Gentle Frog, their channel, you will be able to learn a ton of stuff about working with QuickBooks. And you can also work with Rachel, and she'll help you figure all of that out.
Yeah, and we got, of course, Karen Hairston at 3S Smart Consulting, right? 3ssmartconsulting.com. She knows more about cash flow than anything. She has so much money that she even forgot that she sponsored this show. She goes, what did I spend that money on? She even forgot. So, I mean, if you want to get that much money where you don't even remember what you spend money on, go see Karen over at 3S Smart Consulting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Karen, that's probably the most you spent in one shot on beer for someone else. And we really appreciate it. Thank you, Karen, for buying us beer. Oh, and I should tell you what, I got to tell you about my beer, what I'm drinking today. But we got one more sponsor. It's actually the last week that they're sponsoring us. But I got to mention it. And it's Fresh Victor. It's our cocktail sponsor. And these guys make like an amazing mix for cocktails. This one we just had the other night. It was cactus, pear, and pomegranate, and we made a mix out of it. It was delicious, absolutely delicious. They got 6, 8. I can't even remember how many different flavors. We still got a couple left in the fridge there. Go check them out at freshvictor.com. They're awesome. So thank you again. And we got one more.
And he's this is a big week for Louisiana. Matter of fact, he's probably at the Super Bowl because LSU, Barnes & Noble Education, who he works for, is having kind of a trailer there with pro athletes, LSU gear. This guy is the biggest LSU fan on the planet. Now he's going to have pro athletes in his vicinity. I mean, I'd be just going bonkers. Can you believe it? I think they even got I think they might even have Joe Burrow, and they might have like the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu. They got all these people coming to the Super Bowl that I don't know if they are, and I don't know shit about it, but if they're going to be there, why wouldn't they stop by the LSU trailer and check it out and say hi to fans? So if anything, go check out the LSU trailer over at the Super Bowl if you're in the area in New Orleans. And Devin may be there. I don't know what his schedule is. I don't know if he's going to be there. But if he's there, look for Devin.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Devin. And the beer I'm featuring this week, too, this is, now I've featured them before, but check out this can. It's a crow with like this skull on it. That is so badass.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
that's really cool.
Within us from Anchorage Brewing. Anchorage makes amazing beer, but their IPAs are terrific. This is a double IPA, 8.4%. I will admit the reason I picked it is because I was going through my fridge and going 11%, 12%, 13, 10, 11, and went, holy cow. And then I hit this one, 8.4. And I thought, well, that's my light beer this week. So I guess Anchorage, you're getting a little bit of love this week, but they make amazing beer. And especially if you like IPAs, go check them out.
Yeah. So speaking of Super Bowl, this is Super Bowl week. And I know that the other Mike Myland hates it, that this is Super Bowl week, mainly because he keeps sending me all this garbage about, you know how they have like this new term for everything called derangement syndrome?
No.
The other Mike Mylan, yeah.
That.
So, all right. So the other Mike Mylan has the Chiefs version of that, the Chiefs derangement syndrome, which means every time he hears about the Chiefs or whatever, he has to come up with conspiracy theories, and he's got to come up with reasons why they cheat, and reasons why they're bad, and reasons why they're hating them, and it causes so much stress in his life. Well, they came out with a new drug, other Mike Mylan, that I wanted to share with you. It's called Krylenol. So every time you start getting this anxiety from thinking about how the Chiefs are such badass football team, I want you to take a Krylenol and relax just a little bit. It's okay. You're witnessing greatness.
Oh boy, I think I'd wait to after the result on Sunday before you talk too tough, because you never know what's going to happen there. But this is a big week, like Super Bowl Sunday, like here in Phoenix Open, like the Waste Management Open is this weekend, which means every year it's kind of like, well, are we going to go or are we going to avoid it like the plague? I'm pretty sure it's a year where we're just going to avoid it like the plague. So what'll happen is like we're not going near traffic. We're hopping on the bikes. We're going the other direction, and we're going to spend the weekend hanging out far away from the mayhem.
Hey, so what are they doing this year? Because wasn't last year, it was like a muddy mess. It was like craziness, and it's like just drunken mud fest.
Yeah, it's always a drunken fest. It's the mud that was new. We weren't there last year because like same thing. It's like I can only do it every few years, to be honest, especially Saturday. Like it's a spectacle. I got to admit it's a spectacle, but we could also be out biking and stuff. But what I think they did this year, interesting, because it was a disaster last year. When we drove by the course, they have, I bet you 3-4 times minimum more stands. There are tents and stands across the entire course. And it used to be like, the was it 17th, 16th hole, I think had, the big one and a few other ones. The whole course seems to be stands. So I think what they want is people to actually go and sit somewhere, so they're not just a mob on the course. That's what it looks like happened.
Yeah, what'd they call that? 16, 17, 18. They called it the gauntlet or something like that, because it was just like you're in like a football stadium playing golf, the whole time that you're there.
I think it's 16. It wraps all the way around. It's one of the few places on you don't have to be quiet. It's the one hole on the entire tour that people yell and scream the entire time.
All right. So last time I saw you in Scottsdale, we went. And Courtney and I saw one of the holes in ones and the chaos that went. I was on the driver's side, not the green side, which is the fun side. I was on the other side. I could still see just the beer and the cups and the cans and everything being thrown around. It was just absolute mayhem. I had so much fun that I went ahead and booked Sunday too. If you remember that, I'm like going, hell, we're going back tomorrow.
Yep. Yeah, it is. It's fun. It's fun. Maybe it'll change our mind. Maybe we'll go grab some tickets and head over there. But it's also it's a nice time to kind of go away. There's a mob over there, and it's like, hey, the rest of the city, we can just go and hang out and have fun. So we'll see what happens.
What's funny is that you mentioned the camera, right? The camera, you're like, oh, it's blurred background. I'm like, I didn't do anything. If you look at Chrome right now, it has this new setting. Well, now it's gone. Anyway, it's a new. It's on my Apple. It's on my Apple, but it's a Google Chrome setting for cameras. Oh. And I didn't realize it would mess with this, but it's got things like portrait mode. And do I have that on? Oh, I had it on. That's why I look. See it?
Oh yeah, there we go.
Portrait mode, not portrait mode. Studio light. I think I was playing that. Look at that studio light. I don't know if you can tell or not. Studio light. So
actually, go back to the studio light. I think it looked pretty good. I think it may have froze you though too, so it might be slowing things down. I don't even know where you're finding that.
So this is studio light off. This is on, right? So that's on. You see it?
Oh yeah, it's kind of nice. Leave it on.
It's kind of cool. Yeah. The other thing is, okay, it's up at the top. I think it's a new update by Apple, but up at the top, you see your date, time, and all that. It's a camera. It looks like a camera thing. It just looks like a camera icon. Click on that because I'm like, what the hell is that? Because I'm thinking people are hacking in, spying on me when I'm in the office. I'm like, oh, no, that's Chrome stuff. But the other thing they got is these reactions. You know how every once in a while I'll do like a 2 or whatever, and it'll give me a thumbs up. It'll give me that. No, Google's trying to get in the game too. Check out this reaction for like a fireworks, right? Or starburst. Check this out. It's like a laser light show, right? Right. And if you're if you say something bad, I'm gonna do this. Oh, here, bad.
Okay, nice. Okay, now I want to find it because I don't think I have it. I don't see a little camera icon. It's in the Apple.
Oh, there's the
menu
fireworks.
bar?
Yeah, it's up top in the Apple menu bar. It's on. Mine's on active as Chrome, so where you get your clock and all that, and focus mode and Wi-Fi. Yeah. It's on the far left of all the icons.
Green camera?
Yeah, click on that.
Okay, but I don't see any of the fancy stuff that I think you're getting.
I'm cooler. I don't know, but look at it in the future. I mean,
software, that might be the thing. It's like, when was the last time I updated the software?
That could be right, because there was a new update, right? There was a new update that came out, I think, this week or so.
Oh no, that's probably why. Oh, so I'll update after, and then next week I can mess around and but somehow like my camera took my beard off, so that's something.
Yeah, I was going to notice that. So I can't do that. You can do it. I can't do it because I'm going to say maybe 6 years ago, I shaved it down, maybe not all the way off, but close enough. And everybody in my family, kids, Courtney, everybody just looked at me and goes, no, you can't do that. I'm like going, all I did was shave. This is what I look like. And they go, no, you don't look like that. Because apparently
oh yeah, for me, it's like happens every 3 or 4 years. I suddenly get a whim. And then this is what it was. Like literally, I think it was Saturday morning for no apparent reason. Well, Heather thought my beard was feeling a bit scruffy, and I thought, oh, I wonder what my face looks like. And so I took it all the way off, and then and I couldn't stand myself when I was looking in the mirror. At least now I'm getting a little bit of 5 o'clock shadow. So this is probably the only time you'll see me without a beard on this show. I know I do look younger, but to me, I just look weird. So I just can't do it.
Yeah, my family won't let me do it. And what's funny is I kind of want to every once in a while. I'm like, oh, man, just because like earlier today was itching. I'm like, I don't know why it's itching. I mean, it's a skin thing. It's not like a growing thing. It's like a dry or something in Texas.
You know what you would look great on? The handlebar. Just take that off and just leave a big handlebar. That would look awesome. You could pull off handlebar, man. I can't. Yeah. It would look weird.
Yeah, but I have a kind of a moon face, right? So it's kind of round, so it looks weird. I think it would look weird.
Got to try it. Try it for next week. Our 200th episode. It'll be a weird mustache episode, and we'll just shave in some weird mustaches.
Yeah, I can't, man. She. I'm telling you, I would rather you make fun of me than argue with her about facial hair. That's one of the ones. Yeah. She likes this. I stick with this.
It's you are a smart man, so that's I'm working on growing it back, but it'll be back in no time. Like this is, you probably can't see it very good, but I've already got a bit of a beard going. This was just a few days, so it doesn't take me long. So.
It looks like a nursing home beard right now, but I mean,
well, it is a little gray. That's part of what makes me look a little old, probably because I grayed pretty early here. So anyway.
Yeah. All right. So forecasting. I think you know a little bit about this, and I put some controversy in there a little bit, and I don't know if I feel this way because I built forecasting software as well, but I think that one of us is more heavily committed to it than the other. That's why I thought it'd be a good topic. All right, so tell me about your thoughts on forecasting and why a small business owner should do it.
Well. Okay, first of all, I'm obviously a little bit biased here. Like we can do all kinds of forecasting in dry run, but you know what? Number one, what we're really good at is cash flow, and what we're really good at is lumpy cash flow. But what I will say for a business, forecasting is really important to understand where you're headed. Do you have some risks coming up that may be problematic? Do you have an opportunity that maybe you don't even know you have? Risk of running out of cash. Opportunity, you actually have some extra cash sitting there you can do something with. But as a business owner, I think you need to know what matters most for your forecasting. Like if you're a coffee shop, you kind of need to know what's going on with your cash flow, but it's more like what is happening on almost like a KPI level, like a high volume of small transactions you're trying to go like, how do I turn the dial up on those transactions? How do I turn the dial down on the expenses? How do you like that kind of stuff, right? The stuff we deal with the most, and this is what's close to my heart, is when it's lumpy. When you've got real volatility in your cash flow, you have to forecast it, because the risk of you running into trouble is massively high, because of that volatility, because of that lumpiness. And so that's what I'd say. Like you need to, stay on top of it. And this isn't just small business, because I had a meeting earlier today and I was talking with someone about $1 billion business that is dealing with cash flow and spreadsheets, and they have issues. And it's because it still matters, right? Like it matters, especially when you have that volatility, right?
Hey, the weirdest thing in the world for me to say is size doesn't matter. but because come on, that was funny. That was funny.
That was good. It was good. If I had my fireworks thing, I'll have to do my update. So I got my fireworks. Yeah. Go ahead.
But it's that thing where what are we forecasting? And I don't care how big you are or small you are. I mean, even Dell's had cash flow problems. I mean, we make decisions and all of a sudden the timing of what happens is different than what you expect or otherwise. And you just get into a pickle, right? Well, I'll call it a pickle that way. So, because of size.
Well, and like I cannot tell you how many times I've heard especially from a CFO or a finance pro or whatever, or even a business owner, it's just another number. It's just another zero. I have heard that so many times. It's just another zero, because it doesn't matter if you're 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, billion. It's maybe more pillars and more, but it still matters. It still absolutely matters. And in fact, where I see the people that are like almost desperate for help, it's usually bigger and more complex, but they understand like there's a lot riding on this, and it makes it the magnitude of the issue bigger.
Well, what I think is one of the biggest differences between you and I, right? You built a cash flow forecasting tool. So did I, called Cash Flow Tool. And my thoughts changed. I mean, you probably went down a rabbit hole on something before and you go, oh, I used to think this, now I think that. And my thought changed. I'm like going, dude, we're missing this cash flow forecasting thing we're doing is this big in everybody's world. And from what I was trying to do, right? I wasn't trying to provide a cash flow forecast. I was trying to give people a way to see the future of not just cash flow, right? So because of what I was doing and the whole clear path to cash, which is beyond just cash flow, it's like, debt management and the whole works. I wrote a white paper back in, I don't know, I'm going to say early 2000, I don't know, over COVID. Yeah, I think it was right before COVID. It was right before COVID. And Accounting Web at the time, which was a trade magazine on the internet here, published it, right? It was a downloadable white paper and all that. And it was 32 pages long, because my whole thought process is that we're only doing a piece. And the way I got there was when I talked to business owners, they were forecasting the income statement. I'm like going, man, you're stopping short. You're really missing the biggest part of the business. The income statement is just, does my business work? If I sell this much and spend this much, this is what I got left over. But it doesn't show you how cash moves through a business. It just doesn't, right? So then I added the cash budget, which is more what you do, right? I mean, you do more of a cash budget. If money comes in 30 days, I might have sold it in January, but I don't see the cash till February. Now, how do I make that decision? Because it changed, right? What I see on the income statement doesn't hit my bank account for 30 or 60 days later. And then I'm going, that's not even the full picture, right? This is me going down the rabbit hole. So then I added in, let's also forecast a balance sheet. And I'm like going, people are not forecasting a balance sheet ever. When I talk to CPAs and they go, you can't do that. I'm like going, bullshit. Let me show you. And I have a technique to forecast a balance sheet that tells you if you're going to have a financial need, because it has to balance. And for me, it's a point of verification. If you want to make your cash flow forecast or your other forecast more valid, everything has to play in line. Otherwise, you might try to grow faster than you can generate cash or to even borrow to keep up with. And that's what happens to the big companies.
Well, and that's that's what we see. Like now, we've sort of made a bit of a move up market, and we're finding our way up there because that's where we basically have pulled, because that's where people had the biggest problem, right? What I will say is when you get up into that mid market and larger businesses, they do forecast balance sheet. Like they do a 3-way forecast: balance sheet, P&L, and cash flow statement, and it's exactly that. But and honestly, we have so much of that data that at some point we will likely bring that into dry run, but it's a very secondary thing. The area that is the gap on all of that we hear every day is that's sort of a longer term 20,000 foot view of the business. I need to know what's happening in the next 3 months. I need to know what's happening in the next 6 months. And from a cash flow perspective, that's sort of why we exist. We will help with a shorter cash flow and kind of go like, do you have enough money? Can you start that next job? Like that's a big deal. It's like, yeah, like I literally was talking with a CFO earlier today. He was giving me the example of a client that has, I can land this I have a $2 million job that's ready to go, but I got a base. And he's basically like, yeah, but you got to pay 12 weeks on salaries and you have to put this type of money out before you get that first check in, and you won't be able to make it. Like, so there's those mechanics, right?
The mechanics go all the way down to the product level, meaning that I had a conversation this week about beans, coffee beans. Like if there's a tariff on another country and I take a 25% hit on pricing, what does that affect everything down the line? And can I even get enough beans? Remember during COVID, couldn't get enough masks, couldn't get enough anything, toilet paper.
Yeah.
Those are things, I mean, when you're forecasting, it isn't just about cash flow. It isn't just about the balance sheet, the income statement. Sometimes it's about the stuff that's in your warehouse.
Yeah. I'm going to jump in here a little bit too, because this is something that like the biggest stories in the last couple of weeks have been, number one, tariffs. And you start thinking about how they're going to affect business. And number two, DeepSeek. And that AI is so smart and it's going to do everything by itself. And I will guarantee you that if you use some of these forecasting tools and you ask it for a projection, it's not going to know that you may be affected by tariffs. People know that shit. Mm-hmm. It looks back. It's got an enormous data set. What it can say is, well, tariffs are coming up. Yeah, but does it actually affect your business? Are you in the coffee business? Or are you in this business where it's not going to affect it? Like there are subtleties there that AI can pick up. And I was talking with an advisor, like a CFO that advises other businesses. It's one from one of the big accounting firms in the US. And they had built out a DSO, like basically it was like calculate with AI the expected dates of payment based on how people tend to pay. And he said it was 70% accurate. And I burst out laughing and he goes, yeah, we spent a lot of time on that. And I said, yeah, they'll never, like, it's awfully hard to reach what a CFO can do. Like there's some really nice insight there, but the difference is because I ran a creative agency for over a decade and I could have a client paid religiously on time, until they didn't. Until they didn't, I've had the conversation with them and I found out that shit runs downhill because something happened with them and everything changed. And AI is basically telling me averages. That's not cutting it. That's not working.
Yeah. You got an RFP coming up or you could have to finance a big new contract or you might lose it. Like, those are things that you got to actually figure out the risk level that you're willing to take on those. You've seen my shirts. I think I wore a shirt on here before. It says AI does not equal me. It doesn't have my timing. It doesn't have my instincts. It doesn't have my sense of humor. Yeah. Any of those things. Right. So
I have a sticker right up here that says robots can't. Because we were giving out stickers at a conference one time, robots can't. And also before shit gets real, everyone wanted that sticker. It was quite hilarious. It's like all the stuff, people giving away shirts and socks and electronics, and people come up and like, can I get that sticker? There was one that before shit gets real sticker. It was quite hilarious, actually.
I got to tell you what I like about this episode is, I mean, we're sticking to our knitting, but it's smart conversation, right? Because we're in our wheelhouse. We're talking about cash flow. We're talking about forecast. We're talking about small business money. And I think I'm so in the zone. Blaine, I am so in the zone because the last 7 days, right? Absolutely. The last 7 days, dude, I took this challenge. I did Magic Mind 7 days in a row. And I tell you what, every time I sit down at this desk, I am in the zone. I don't get distracted. I don't look left. I don't look right. I just focus on what's happening. And I've got more done in the last week than I got done the rest of the whole month, right? All of January. I got more done this week than all of January just because I was challenged for 7 days of Magic Mind. And I'm telling you, you got to try it.
Yeah. And Magic Mind, like they've been a terrific sponsor for us for the last, all of January, coming into February here. And there is a new deal that they're offering. They have a limited time deal that you can use right now that gets you 48% off your first, almost half price off your first subscription, or 20% off a one-time purchase. So if you just want to try it, you still get a deal. And you just use the code that you'll see below, BEEZBB20 at checkout, and just go to magicmind.com and you can use that code. Get a heck of a discount and give it a go, and make sure that you're really dialed in for the rest of February, rest of March, the rest of the year.
There you go. So, all right. So let's go back to forecasting here because I talked to advisors, SBD, SCORE, these type of folks, and they say, oh, it's necessary to have this 3-year projection, 5-year projection. I've lost confidence in any of those. 14 businesses later, I'm like going, it's fun. It's good to have a big goal. Can't rely on them for anything. That 60, 90 days, that's when we built Cash Flow Tool. It was at 60 days because everything happens there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I like it's a drop off, right? So like in dry run, we see that like our customers, sometimes they'll have invoices. They might be 120 days out. Like we get them. Almost all of it. That's why they say the 13-week cash flow forecast. Nothing magical about 13 weeks. Is pretty much 3 months. That's likely as far out as you can kind of see with your ARAP, but it'll stretch longer than that. With dry run, we oftentimes will see customers do a bit of a hybrid. We often recommend it. So it's like, hey, here's your 13-week. This is pretty concrete. Next month is really concrete. And then it starts to tail off a bit. Then you get to that 3rd month, that 4th month, that 5th month, all the way through 12 months and beyond. And we'll give them sort of a hybrid. If they want it, they can kind of go, okay, it'll help me see maybe some of the seasonality trends. But that's where it's going from concrete, not exact, because not everyone will pay on time, but something I can see, feel, and I got a really close idea to, let's take a look at our sales pipeline and yeah, you know what? May's usually a little bit slow and it adds a little bit of input. And then you get to the next year and the next year. There's value to it. But when you're talking a 3-year and 5-year, I don't know if the forecast is as much about truthfully planning when you get that far out is as much as driving your actions, like setting goals. They'll say a forecast, but is it a forecast or is it really more of setting a goal? And then you work backwards to figure out how you're going to do it. So it's like a weather forecast. The longer out you get, the trickier it is, right?
Exactly right. I mean, that's the way I look at it. Is I'm like going, okay, yeah, I want to try to get to $5 million in revenue in 3 years. That's about as good as a 5-year forecast or a 3-year forecast can be. Yep. That's about it, right? So I wouldn't waste a lot of time on that far out, but focus on what's happening now. And that's where I tell people, I said, my first goal with my clients is, hey, it's going to be simple. Let's put aside 3 to 6 months operating expense. If you're spending $10,000 a month, just put aside 30 to 60,000 before you take a dividend, which means more than your salary, before you start buying a boat and buying a second house and taking trips. Have that aside, because all of these problems, the problems that cause you the most pain in your life as a small business owner is, can I make payroll? Can I do this? Are we going to stay open next month? If you got 3 to 6 months operating expenses, you got time to adjust.
Yeah.
You got time. I mean, it's just time. It's Blaine Birch's analogy of the bus coming down the street. It doesn't matter. I see it. I saw it, 3 blocks from now. I got options. If you don't have that reserve, you've reduced the visibility of when the problem's going to hit you.
Yeah, and take a little bit of inspiration from some of the larger businesses, because you think when you hit a certain point, you don't care anymore. It's the opposite. We actually we actually added a functionality in dry run, just a nice little feature someone asked for. They said from a treasury perspective, we have how many entities, number of different locations, or a number of different entities, not locations, different entities, and this one can't go below this mark. I don't know, 1.2 million or whatever. We want to make sure we have that much cash on hand, which meant that you could actually flip on part of the forecast that would actually highlight it if you went below their treasury line, not 0. If it went 1.2 or whatever, 5, whatever it was, if you dip below that line, it highlights it, because that's basically what they were doing, is they're saying, we want to make sure that we have this beachhead, like this nest egg that's sitting there that we can use if we have to.
Yeah, so that's really good, right? I mean, we did that in cash flow, saying our cash flow tool. What's the minimum balance? Alert me when it's below this. Well, when I tell you to have 3 to 6 months of operating expense, like, what should it be? Well, think about your own business. This is where seasonality comes in. When I'm in the high season, I'm doing the most sales. Maybe I only need 3 months of cash because I have it coming in faster. In the low season, when it's not there, have closer to 6 months or whatever covers your slow season, right? So you don't have to worry about, can I stay open, if no sales happen.
Yeah. And I would recommend, like, if you have a pretty substantial, because we've had customers like that, they have pretty substantial amount of money sitting there, do something with it. But then, not only can you have that money on hand, you can invest it, obviously a low risk investment, very low risk, but you can make money off of that as you're sitting on it, because you kind of need it there. You might as well make money off of it too.
Yeah. And I'm telling you that 3 to 6 months isn't the absolute, you have to do this or not.
Yeah.
Bill Gates, remember I've said this in this podcast before, Bill Gates' cash reserve, that's what I'm going to call it, was 1 year's salary for every employee. Right? It wasn't 3 to 6 months operating expense. He wanted a year's salary for every employee, meaning that he didn't want a mistake that he made as the leader of the company to impact employees. Mm-hmm. So he had a year to figure it out. If they made a major mistake, he had a year to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Wise. Because we've seen, like, before the last, 5 years, I had to go back to 2008 to see, and it was about a 2-year little weirdness dip. And then before that, you probably have to go back to, I can't know, it was 2090. Like there were issues that would change the complexion for small business. But honestly, since 2020, it seems like there's something every year. It's like they shut down the world because of COVID, and then the supply chain disappeared. And then inflation hit us like a truck, and it's still going. And now there's potential tariffs. And it's like small business always gets a short end of the stick in all this. Right?
Yeah, but it's been every year. We're just seeing it differently now, I think. Every year, meaning that you could always get sick. Your partner could, that could be as simple as that. My partner, who I count on to do half the work, got sick. And I had to pick it up, and it created a big chaos in my business. outside of hurricanes, outside of tornadoes and, rainstorms, snowstorms. I mean, Dallas, when they shut down for 3, 4, 5 days or whatever from ice, that impacts every single business that has zero traffic that day. They don't get to just not have expenses those days. They just don't have the revenue.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And there seems to, maybe we just hear about it more, but it seems to be even more volatility than there used to be. And small businesses are the ones that really suffer from this. And we're seeing, like, in 24, I actually think I heard of more businesses ending in 24 than in the previous 3 or 4 years. So many held on, and now they're saying 25 could be even worse for startups, right? Is a challenge. And so that's the thing, is looking forward and knowing where you could potentially be, and then setting up little safety nets all the way through is really important.
Yeah. It makes me think about, like, all right, so like in the restaurants and stuff like that, I knew when it rained, we had less traffic. It was a real weird thing. It's like people are like, oh, nah, it's raining, I'm not going out.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about, like, we had a new highway come in, the big main highway goes downtown into San Antonio. It's called 281. Where they place exits, you got to pay attention if you're a small business owner. I didn't think about that, because I'm like going, there's 2 gas stations that were like, we're talking a tenth of a mile apart, almost next door to each other, right? Not because there's something in the middle, but almost next door. Where the exit let off was between both of them. Which one do you think got more traffic because of where the exit was planned?
The one on the way back onto the freeway.
The exit coming down, yeah. The one when I'm coming off, right, I can't go backwards because the outer roads, in Texas are one way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's along that road.
And
out you go. Yeah.
So think about it. I mean, getting off the interstate, they just cut all of the revenue that person usually had because he was first at the stoplight. He was the first one. Now he's past the exit.
Yeah.
Changes everything for a franchise owner or whatever. So even things like that, you can't plan for unless this was an 8-year project, so you kind of knew. But sometimes things that happen around you, building, road construction, festivals, like I don't know what happens in New Orleans during this week when now you got Super Bowl and then Mardi Gras right after it. There's probably some businesses that get shut out where it's worse for them.
Yeah, there probably is. Like in Scottsdale here, when we have the Phoenix Open, and like it's a big boost for a lot of businesses. But I never thought about it as it could actually be like this weekend might be hard on some businesses because the traffic's so bad. People don't want to get out on the road. Like I said, we're biking down the bike paths the other direction. Right.
Dude, so you remember, you remember you had to pick me up because we walked to whatever the hell restaurant was. Right. So we couldn't get out of the Phoenix Open. So we're like going, screw it, we're just going to walk. And it was a long ass walk. It's a long ass walk, but I'm glad you picked us up.
I could have picked you up a lot sooner until your phone was like, we're walking. You're doing what? That's it's a bit of a hike there. So
yeah, we didn't know. We'd been at the Open all day.
and the complex that you got to where I picked you guys up, there's now a new taco shop in there that's really good. So it's Heather and I've been going there like once a week for about the last month because it's really pretty good. It's kind of a cool little place, nice little bar, and great Mexican food.
When do you leave? When do you go back?
Early April-ish, yeah.
All right, so I'm going to miss you again because I'm going to be there in May, like the first week of May. Yeah.
Shit. Jeez, we can't time it.
You just got to move.
One of these days. Yeah, we'll see. No, you guys are kicking us out. We gotta hit the road in April and get the hell out before you I don't know, attack our house and drag us out. I guess. So.
Oh, you're getting political on us.
No, I'm not getting political. We are, we will be leaving usually a little bit earlier than like we like to head home through California if we can, and of course with the fires there, it's been awful. But on the other side of it, we do want to be over in California and supporting the small business. We'll go south of LA and we'll go to little beach towns and we'll support some businesses there. And then we'll unfortunately have to bypass, of course, a lot of LA, and then we'll go up to Northern California. And again, we love to be through that area. We love the area, like to support all little businesses and breweries through there. So,
all right. So for the author or from the author of Chronic Cash Flow, what would you tell the people listening today?
You know what? I'm going to go back to you mentioned the bus analogy. I'm actually going to explain it in a little more detail on so I think it has a little bit more impact. And it is, I think, a really important analogy. And I don't care if you're a big business or a small business. If you step off the curb in front of a bus, everything that matters is how far away the bus is. So if you look down the block and it's 3 blocks down, you got a lot of options. If it's 20 feet away, you got a couple options. If it's right on top, if you don't have an option, it's over, right? So that's where forecasting can help you is giving you time, and time gives you options. And so it's bigger businesses know this. They're all doing this. You guys can learn from that. You don't have to be big. They've learned the hard way and survived through it. That's why they're doing it. But as a small business, the more you know, the more you understand, the more options you give yourself. So don't think of it as a down, like a scary thing. It's like the opposite. It gives you options.
That's exactly right. And that's in everything you do in your business. The farther away you can identify that the bus is coming, the more options you got. And you can take in choices or chances. And the bus isn't always, believe it or not, it's not always a cash flow problem because a customer didn't pay. It could be an illness. It could be a divorce. It could be something personal that's going on in your life that also, hey, when that's happening, that's another bus. Right? That's a different bus coming down the same road that impacts your business. So anytime you see there's a potential for danger, hey, I don't care if it's a rise in coffee beans or a rise in the price of diddle hoppers, whatever is going to happen.
You got it.
The farther you see it out, you have more options, right? Because that's really what we're trying to do is give you options so you can take more chances. Time is never on your side unless you can identify something earlier.
Yeah. What I would recommend, sit down and just think of what if. And that's what our customers are dealing with all the time is, what if the price does go up? What do you do versus the status quo? What if it goes down? What if this changes? Know your best, worst, and likely scenarios and be prepared for all of them. And sometimes when you say the best scenario, that could be fast growth. Fast growth has killed a lot of businesses. So, it's not be careful what you wish for, be prepared. Be prepared. So, forecasting can unlock a lot for you.
All right. One softball for you. Give you a softball.
All right.
Why should I not use a spreadsheet to do this?
Well, a softball, you guys that have been using spreadsheets for cash flow, especially when things get complicated, the issues. It will take you a ton of time. You're going to have broken equations. You're going to have data that is completely wrong. It's entered wrong. And then you work with other people. You're working with a management team. And you're going to walk in and you're going to show them something, and you need them to understand. I hear this from CFOs every week. I need them to understand what I'm trying to tell them. And so spreadsheets get in the way of actually building the correct, accurate spreadsheet, and the time involved and the recency, like how up to date it is. But it's also an enormous barrier in the end use of making use of the data. So you need something that's crystal clear that the management team can understand and you can talk about with them and have some direction.
All right, so I'm going to switch to a little BS. I bought 3 squares in a Super Bowl square pool thing. You know what I'm talking about? You ever seen that?
I think I must be hungry because when you said I bought 3 squares, I initially thought of Nanaimo bars. Americans don't know what Nanaimo bars are, but they are these delicious little dessert bars. I must be hungry because that's what I thought of. So, but I know what you're talking about.
All right, so it's like you're predicting the future, but you don't know anything about the future, right? It's like going Chiefs versus Eagles. First of all, you don't know who's going to be on what side. So think about a grid.
Yep.
Think about a grid. Up top is one team. On the other side, on the I guess what y-axis is another team. But you don't know if your team is going to be on the top or on the side. And then there's random numbers 0 through 9 generated for the y-axis and the x-axis.
Yep.
And not 0 through 9. It could be 3, 8, 7, 4. They're in random order, and they're drawn after you buy the square. So you buy the square first and put your name in a blank square, and then they assign the numbers in a random drawing so everybody has the equal chance. Oh. Not one square is more valuable than the other when you buy it.
Interesting, because I have actually been in ones where you buy the square. So you actually see the scores already in there. And it's like you want to get in early because you buy the square, and you buy a square for a few bucks a square, but you see what the score is, which sounds really good, but honestly doesn't increase your chances of winning. I don't think.
No, it doesn't. But the random order makes it seem fair. Even it doesn't matter. I mean, because you're like, oh, that would be 0-0. That's not going to be a good one, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
that is, and they're only looking at the last number of the score, right? And in this particular case, they give you a payout at first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and third quarter, and then final and fourth quarter. So there's like 4 or 5 chances to get paid. Mm-hmm. So you can win depending on what the score is any given quarter.
Yeah.
All right. So I bought 3 squares. They were like $10 a piece, so $30. Here are my numbers. You tell me what you think. This is us forecasting what we think is going to happen. Because this is no different than forecasting. I mean, I've already made the decision. I'm already doing these things. Let's forecast the result.
Sure.
So the first number I say is going to be the Chiefs. And the second number I say is going to be the Eagles.
Okay.
Right? So the first is 0-0. You like it, you don't like it?
I don't like it, but there's an outside chance that first quarter.
Okay. Or it could be 20-30. It could be 10-20. It could be 10-0. Right.
It's an awful one, except that, it's an awful one, especially with this matchup. I think it's an awful one, but you just never know. Sometimes you're going to lose. I'll be honest with you. I'm trying to justify and say like the first quarter could end up that way. It's not going to end up that way, dude. Like that one's flushed out of the toilet.
Here's the next one. Chiefs 6, Eagles 4.
That's a really tough score to get. The 4 especially. But even 6 is kind of crappy. It's okay. All right, so
but 4 could be 24, right? 4 could be 24, which would be I get 3 touchdowns, an extra point, and a field goal.
Okay, misunderstood. Yeah. So it's the last digit of the
It's only the last digit.
Oh, totally different. I've never done one like that before. Okay.
Yeah, so it's only the last digit. So the Eagles could get 24, which is 3 touchdowns and an extra point.
And a field goal.
21 plus field goal. Yeah. And then Chiefs got 6, could be 2 field goals.
2 field goals. So that's not awful, right? Then. That's not awful. So and it could also be 14. So it could be just a couple touchdowns versus 2 field goals. That's a good one. That's actually a really good one.
I'm pretty excited about that one. All right. The next one is Chiefs 9 and Eagles 0.
Now that I know how it works, it's pretty crappy because the 10, 20 is not that easy. 30 is not that great. 10 is a fairly likely one at the end of the first quarter, but the 9, that sucks.
Could be 3 field goals.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, but it's the Chiefs. Right? Did you say it? I guess.
Could be a touchdown, an extra point, and a safety.
Yeah, it could be. Technically.
Could be 21 is 7 plus 8 more. which is another touchdown and a 2-point conversion. Right?
That still doesn't seem.
So, I mean, they're all kind of doable. Who knows? I'm not super happy with them. And because I'm not super happy with it, it will probably be the one that wins.
It'll be the 0-0 that wins. It'll be 10-10 or something at the end of the first or something.
Yeah, so it's like, think about it. Put in $30. If I win any one quarter, it's $100. If you win the whole game, then it's another $100. And it's a fundraiser, so it's a fundraiser for youth football. So it's a split pot. Instead of $1,000,
50-50.
500 goes. Yeah, 500 goes to a fundraiser. 500 goes to the winners.
Yeah, they do those 50-50s at the hockey games, and last playoff run, they would carry it over like a couple of games. Those 50-50 jackpots are getting like into the millions. so many people are buying these bloody tickets, right? So it's
yeah, why not? Why not?
Might as well see if you win something.
All right, so final words. I mean, I appreciate it. If you haven't been to our website, go to mikeandblaine.com because you can buy merch. You can buy us a beer. You should go to YouTube because,
well, you can catch not all of our episodes, but also some of the fun shorts that we have. But yeah, make sure you buy us a beer and sponsor us because we've got some sponsors. We want more, and it's the best value and sponsorship we'll ever have. And my final word is because, and I'm not even a huge fan or anything, but because, Mike, you are a huge fan of Kansas City, I will be pulling for them this weekend for you.
Yes. Tell that to the
Eagles.
other Mike Milan. He can't go for the Eagles either.
Yeah,
he's a Ravens fan.
You're gonna have to flip allegiances here. I know the Mike Milan Bowl's not on the line, but because it's not on the line, I know we can cheer for the Eagles.
But he's Baltimore and Philadelphia. That's like you can't root for Philadelphia.
You can't.
Too close.
No, he's
too close.
He's gonna have to root for the cheaters. So.
All right. Well, hey, do you need some Crylanol over there?
Hey, I don't have a dog in this fight, man. I'll watch it. I'll cheer for Kansas City see if they can three-peat. That'll be a fun story if they can. So,
all right. Hey, 177 in the books. You've been listening to Mike and Blaine. I'm Mike Milan. That's Blaine Birch. We'll see you next week.
Check out their website at mikeandblaine.com. Then subscribe to the podcast and buy these guys a beer.